everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. Well, I am in the mountains once again, but you'll notice that there are no trees. Why is that? Because we are above timberline, or just above it, so about 12,500 feet in elevation. And behind me we're right at the Continental Divide. So behind me is an overlook that should be really beautiful. But anyway, you're not going to want to miss this.
This is Record-ology.
Okay, so we're going to do this in 3 parts. The first part is we are going to deliver on the main topic of the show, which is stereo versus mono records. And then we're going to move on to a awesome antiquing visit in a mountain town. We found the coolest, and the building was over 100 years old, probably like a 130, 140-year-old building. It was an old hardware store, and now it is one of the coolest antique stores you will ever come across. We documented the whole thing. Now, was it a treasure trove of vinyl, or was it a dud? You'll have to see to find out what, if anything, we got out of that place. And then finally, we've got some viewer mail from my friend Nick, who's been with the channel now for years as a loyal and faithful fan / follower. I don't really like to use the word fan, but really somebody who's been along for the journey, a member of the family. So stay tuned for that. Those are going to be awesome. But first, I want to tackle a topic that you may thought you had your brain wrapped around, and I'm here to challenge you that maybe you don't, because it's quite interesting. I was very surprised when I learned this, something for us record collectors, whether you're a thrift store record collector, the free bin record collector, or somebody who's out there actively pursuing certain titles, which I never thought I would be that, considering how we started out, 4 years ago on this channel, but I have become that. That being said, doing it in a very frugal fashion, I think is very smart. But that aside, we want to talk about stereo versus mono. Now, this is not about fake stereo. If you don't know what I mean by fake stereo, check out our video. I'll put it in the description below. We did all about fake stereo. What the heck is that? And why should you know? And yes, you should know, because it's an important topic. But today we're going to talk about true stereo and true mono records. So let's say that you're trucking along there at the record shop, flipping, your fingers are doing the flipping thing. I'm always trying to get faster at that. I'm never fast enough. And you come across a title, this record you've been looking for a while. You're like, yes. And then you look in the upper right-hand corner, oftentimes, but not exclusively, and see stereo. You're like, yes, I got the stereo version. And why would anybody want the mono version? That's ridiculous. Or if you come across a record you've been looking for and it doesn't say stereo, you're like, oh, dang it, is this the mono one? And then you're bummed. You're like, dang it, I wanted the stereo version. Because after all, stereo is better. And, I want that full dimension, that more immersive sound staging. And again, we're talking about real stereo here versus mono, not fake stereo. And you're just bummed. Well, I'm here to challenge that and say that perhaps in finding the mono record, you have done yourself a good deed. Perhaps you are a good deed doer. That reminds me of a movie.
Back where I come from, there are men who do nothing all day but good deeds. They are called good deed doers.
Anyway, you may want to hold on to that mono record, because as it turns out, this is mind-blowing to me. I hope it is to you too. It turns out that the mono version of a record, and this is primarily like 50s, 60s, by the 70s, it doesn't really apply as much, but I'm talking kind of early days of LP vinyl, 12-inch LP vinyl. It was more desirable to have the mono record. Or as we look in hindsight, it turns out to be more desirable. Now, back in the 50s and 60s, you will see stereo records emerging on the scene right away because, the industry, like a lot of industries like film and television, are trying to differentiate themselves from their competition early on. What makes these new record formats better? What can they do that the previous ones couldn't? And LPs and 45s could do stereo, and phonographs were made to do stereo. So that's what drove the whole fake stereo market. Again, separate topic. But it also drove a need for people, or a want for people, desire for people to get their music on stereo LPs. And from that day forward, that's sort of been imprinted upon us that, the more channels of audio, the merrier. You get a wider sound stage, it's more immersive. As it turns out, the mono records got better mixing. They got more attention, and record labels would put their best engineers on the mono mix. And oftentimes they would farm out the stereo mixing to their apprentice or entry level or, talent pool engineers, because it was considered sort of a novelty subset item, which is weird because the industry was really moving towards stereo kind of steadily. But early days, we're talking especially early 60s, it was really viewed as a secondary thing. Stereo was. Mono was the primo market for selling records, even for selling those stereo records. What am I talking about? It all has to do with radio, because the way people were introduced to music oftentimes was through radio. And for the most part back then, radio broadcasts were in mono. So rather than playing stereo records that were either mixed down or folded into a mono mix, they went ahead and created purpose-built mono pressings and mono records for that use. And so the best engineers were put on the task of creating those mono records. So what that means to us today is when we find the mono version of a record, it's not only going to be mixed differently in all likelihood, and not just in terms of stereo mixing, but in terms of how the different instruments are present in the mix than the stereo versions. They're completely separate in a lot of cases. So there's been a lot of attention on mono lately, which is interesting. For people of my generation or younger, this is kind of antithetical to our approach previously. This is completely opposite to what we've been taught. One channel, how good can that be? The mono mix is the desirable mix because the best engineers worked on it. So if you're anything like me, you'll be blown away that the stereo was considered a secondary thing, and that oftentimes that was farmed out to lesser qualified engineers. And it was like, yeah, that's kind of a novelty thing for those stereo turntables they're making now. Sort of like 3D television. Yeah, we'll make some 3D Blu-rays and stuff. It's sort of a fad kind of a thing. And, we know how that went. That fad took off in a big, big way. So next time you're browsing for records and you come across that mono version, that might be the best version of it there is. Up here in Leadville, it's about to get lit. Look at those plays. Yes. Oh my gosh. Hey, how's it going, man? So this is actually pretty typical of a lot of buildings in Colorado mountain towns you'll find. They've been repurposed as cafes, bars, restaurants, and in this case, an antique store. Listen to these floors creak. It's just amazing. There's so much sound and so much smells. It's just awesome. What a great place for an antique store. So I'm assuming to myself at this point, I'm going to hit the mother lode. I'm going to hit a bunch of 78s or records of some sort that have just been, in a barn up here for, half a century. So I'm really assuming that I'm going to hit pay dirt any minute. Let's see if that actually happens. Well, as it turns out, these were the only records in the entire place. And these are ones that, I pass up on these titles. I either have them or am not interested in them. I do like the Broadway stuff. So I was like, well, what else do they have? We've got a lot of license plates if you want to collect license plates, antique fishing poles, but it's just still cool to see a place like this. It didn't, warrant a separate show because of the fact we really didn't find records or turntables besides this one right here, which is cool, but I decided not to go for it. But it was still really neat to see, really cool to experience something, a very, very unique historic property, and the items inside were historic in nature as well. So I'm sure for a lot of people, this is upstairs, by the way, for a lot of people, there would be a lot of treasures in here and things that they were interested in. One more Reader's Digest box set there, but that was it for records. But for me, it was sort of dry on the record front. That being said, it was very well worth the 150 stairs to climb to the second floor. It was a heck of a climb. They actually had a sign there saying, before you ask, there was no brothel upstairs. These were offices in the day, but a really cool trip. So I made a trip over to the post office this afternoon, and I was super surprised to see a package from a longtime viewer from the UK. Thank you so very, very much. I'm so excited. And you know what? I'm such a kid when it comes to this stuff. Like right now, as of the filming of this, is not a show day. It's actually several days before. So I'm doing this way in advance only because I don't have the patience to wait. I am so excited. like a kid on Christmas morning to see what's inside, and thank you so very much ahead of time. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. They are 2 Patsy Cline tapes. It's so awesome. I can't even tell you. I am so excited to look and see what they are. It says he came across these in a charity shop. Believe you're into Patsy at the moment. Yes, I am. Very much so. Thought you would like them. They have not been tested. Regards. Thank you so much. I can't even tell you how excited I am. Let's start with the first one. See what it is. Cool. The best of Patsy Cline. Cool. Look at this. Oh, this is so awesome. Oh, I love this. This is so cool. Yes, I am so excited to check this stuff out. I love this. And now with my new to me Yamaha tape deck, I've been having a blast playing tapes. So this is super exciting. Let's see what this one is. Awesome. Oh, this is so cool. Oh, this is too cool. Thank you so much, my friend. Oh, this means so much. This is so special. What a blessing. Look at this. This is too cool. I cannot wait. Cannot wait to give these a listen. I am so excited. Thank you so very, very much. I've got work tomorrow, and this will be great to listen to as I'm working. You can better believe I will be. So one more time, just thank you so much. It's so awesome. So generous of you, and I very, very much appreciate it. Well, guys, that is going to do it for today. A big thank you for joining me yet again on this adventure, having a blast doing this. Definitely consider giving us a thumbs up, subscribing if you haven't done so already. Also, extending the invitation to you to join the Vinyl Nation, where we do an extra exclusive show. But anyway, that's going to do it for now, guys. Happy record hunting. We'll see you next time.